couple weeks ago I picked up a Kutzall shaping dish so I can start practicing power carving. I grabbed the extreme version of this dish. It's meant for aggressive stock removal, and I thought that'd be a good place to start because the piece I'm practicing for, I'm probably going to have to remove a lot of material. My first practice was carving a shallow tray from a white oak offcut that I had. From there I moved on to carving a rather large piece of hackberry, and now I want to try a different design from this rather thick piece of walnut that I have. My first assessment of this piece was to fill the cracks and voids with epoxy before I start removing any material, but I think I'm going to start with shaping it first, and then as I get closer to a final shape, then I'll see how much epoxy I actually need. Right now I'm going to drill out an inside ring that's going to kind of act as a depth gauge while I'm carving. Because this piece is approximately 3 inches thick, I want to start with a base that's an inch thick. That way, if I want to go a little bit lower, I have that extra wiggle room. I went ahead and marked an inch up from the bottom of this piece of wood, and then I set my drill press to where the point of that Forstner bit is even with that line. I'm almost done carving this inside out, just on the last step of removing the marks left by the Forstner bit. Now I want to get a rough shape for this bottom. Because this is a 16-inch diameter circle, I want the base to be 8 inches, so that gives me a 4-inch rim that I need to carve down. I'm going to try to carve that down to this line right here, and that should give me a good rough shape. This is the final shape that I've decided on for this piece. It's not the original shape that I had in mind, but when I was removing material, I saw this spot on the side, and I really want to try to keep as much of it as possible. I'm going to sand the entire piece with some 40 grit sandpaper to kind of prep that surface for the epoxy. I chose to fill all the large cracks and voids on this piece with black tinted epoxy. For starters, we got this large spot on the bottom here. Then I found this large crack, and it actually goes through this entire rim. So I'm really hoping that epoxy can hold that wood together as time goes on. And then finally, I had these last two spots that needed filled. One kind of on the inside here, and then a rather big one on this rim. This is my first time using the Tyvek tape, and I'm really curious on how good this is for containing that epoxy and how much actually leaked out. It looks like it did a really good job, but I want to take this tape off and get a closer look. I'm actually really impressed with how that tape was able to contain that. It did leave the wood a little bit tacky, but I don't think that should be a problem. This piece is finally done, so here's a closer look at it. I finished this piece with linseed oil and then followed that up with a satin polyacrylic. I really love the way this turned out. It's not my original design. The design I was going for was sides that had more of a slope to them instead of that round shape, but I kind of changed my mind mid-process. As far as the little Kutzall shaping dish, I'd say I'm definitely a fan. It was a very satisfying process. Albeit a very dusty process, it was still satisfying. I'm actually thinking about buying a couple different versions of this dish because one thing I noticed when using this extreme version, it does leave pretty deep scratches in the wood. So I want maybe one or two less aggressive options so I can go back over that and kind of remove those scratches from the wood. On a final note, this is a fun project. I really enjoyed the process and it definitely gave me a lot more practice with the power carving so I can kind of carry that over to a project that I'm currently working on. And like always, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.